Hello there. This is ALCON RECON. I have been viewing that match between Manchester City and Liverpool. I've awaited that game for a long time, simply because of the magnificence of the players in both teams and definitely the most learned coaches in football today. It was one of these matches where the crowds played a great part in it, simply because of the fact that Liverpool has a fantastic crowd and they really laid on during the course of matches. It was no different yesterday. It was the same thing. What did we get out of the game? I was expecting that Manchester City would hold development of the ball, possession of the ball, for a long period of time. I was expecting a little bit of tough gaming from Liverpool so that they can distort the good playing of the Manchester City midfield. It actually happened that way. As a matter of fact, it was partially to pieces in the first 10 minutes, both teams scoring a goal each. And this really lifted the enthusiasm of the crowds and everybody else. But in the main, what sort of a game did we have? I admired what Manchester City was doing in the first instance. They decided that they must win the ball in the opponent's half of the field. That was a magnificent piece of work, simply because of the fact that you don't want to get down to Sané and Salah and just outside the penalty areas, because it's a quick run and a shot at goal that can do the magic. However, it was not the case. Manchester City put the pressure on, and all of a sudden Liverpool looked vulnerable. They were cautious at times, but they were very aggressive at other times, particularly against De Bruyne and Bernardo. So the game was a tight one, although I would say that Man City opened a few doors for goals and didn't get them. On the other hand, Liverpool was trying to play that ball past the middle of the field where the Manchester City players are trying to win the ball, and play it overhead, getting it to Salah or to Sané. Manchester City had that in hand, but they didn't quite have it in the way that they should, simply because of the fact that there's great vulnerability in the central defense of Manchester City. Whether it's Stones, whether it's Laporte, the only time it's in good shape is when Ruben Diaz is there. Fortunately, Cancelo was on one side and Walker was on the other at right wing, so they've been carefully watching. But even up to that point in time, there are occasions when the ball came from Liverpool in just outside the Manchester City area. There was confusion in terms of communication between the two central defenders. It forced the midfield players from Manchester City to come right back there to defend. Otherwise, there would have been more opportunities for goal for Liverpool. So it was one of these matches that had a lot of strategy, and the flow of either team was lacking, not to a great extent, but they had to adjust things all the way. As they went on, mistakes were made. As they went on, opportunities were open for them, particularly Manchester City. Some people reaching on the goal line and not getting it in there. But Manchester City gave the impression that they're in control all the time. Liverpool is not that type of game to give in. Those players fight hard. They work very hard. They get tough. They had 3 yellow cards simply because of the fact, and the only reason why it was 3 is because the referee was being in the spirit of the game for both of them. And some of the things that could have brought a second yellow card was not given. Okay, I could live with that simply because these are 2 of the best teams in the English Premier League, if not in the world. And at this point in time, it was just one of these fantastic moments when you get Liverpool fighting hard to get his team to get a goal or not get a goal. And then Manchester City took the lead. And Liverpool, you can see the face of the coach on the side of the park. He's getting confused. And then all of a sudden, one of those mistakes by the central defense of Manchester City saw the ball loose inside the penalty area and an open net at the right-hand side of Ederson, the equalizer. After that, it was a question of total defense for Liverpool. They were working hard. The substitution, when Foden came onto the field, they were under more pressure than anything else. And De Bruyne was going through the gaps, through the penetrative areas, trying to get shots at goal. They were either hitting somebody or maybe putting a tackle on him outside of the area where he would not get the opportunity. So strategically, the game might have been good. With the kind of chemistry that we see these teams, particularly Manchester City, it was not as good as it should be, simply because of the fact they have distorted the passion of play of Liverpool, but yet still they didn't utilize the space, the penetrative space, to get into the opponent's penalty area. So therefore, and when they got there, they didn't do well with it. Heaven says, a 2-2 draw, it's fair. They're two great teams. They're two wonderful coaches. You can bank on that one. What have you to say about the performance of the Liverpool team under stress? Their right wing backs are looking very vulnerable, vulnerable at one time. On the other side, the other one was getting a little bit tough. In the middle of the field, I didn't see San or Salah getting any opportunities. That is rare because these guys are class players and they find spaces all over the place. Eventually, Sané, with a bit of bad midfield central defense with Manchester City, he came on a blindsided run with a one-on-one central defender. He was quick, he was get under the ball and he knocked it into the nets. It was really against the run of play, but at the same time it was satisfactorily good for Liverpool as well. Stay there 1 point ahead and fight harder and harder and harder. What I like about the game, the strategy of both teams seemed to work for them on both sides. I enjoyed it. It was not a great finesse because of the missing of goals and this, that and the other. But outside of that, it was exciting. It was giving the assurance that the midfield of Manchester City can also do defensive work. That's important, simply because of the fact until Ruben Diaz gets better and maybe Ake comes into the fashion, or Laporte improve the quality of his game when he's playing with Stones in particular, who is definitely not the strongest central defender in the English Premier League. But it was enjoyable. Didn't you enjoy it? I did.